That crack you see right there? Scientists discovered that the pain of being without intimacy activates the exact same region of the brain as physical injury. Not similar, the same. So when someone says they are hurting from a lack of connection, their brain is sending the same distress signal it would send if they had broken a bone. This is where our story begins, at the crack. The brain does not process absence all at once. It happens slowly. You find yourself somewhere familiar, a moment that used to belong to two people, and now belongs only to you. And deep inside the limbic system, your brain's emotional core, a signal quietly begins. Something I need is no longer here. The brain was not built for this bench alone, and every minute that empty space stays empty, that signal gets louder. And sometimes it is not absence that breaks the brain. Sometimes it is watching connection disappear. While you are still right there, the moment the brain senses intimacy slipping, the hypothalamus fires, cortisol rises, the amygdala lights up like an alarm, because to your nervous system, losing a deep connection is not an emotional event. It is a survival event. To understand what the brain loses without intimacy, you first have to see what it has with it. The prefrontal cortex, your empathy center, the part of you that reads another person and makes real closeness possible. The limbic system, your emotional core, where attachment lives, where the warmth of being truly known gets stored. The hypothalamus, your chemical relay station. It converts every emotional signal into hormones that run through your entire body. When these three regions are fed by real intimacy, they glow, they communicate, they keep you human. When they are not fed, they do not go quiet, they go wrong. This is what the brain looks like when intimacy is present. Oxytocin rising, dopamine surging, serotonin stabilizing. The brain lights up from the inside. Nothing activates the brain's reward system quite the way genuine human intimacy does. This is the brain at its most alive, and this is exactly what it mourns when intimacy disappears. Think about a conversation that actually mattered, one where you leaned in without deciding to, where time moved differently, where you felt completely understood. In that moment, your cortisol dropped, your prefrontal cortex sharpened, and something called neural synchrony began, where two nervous systems quietly sync with each other. You are not just emotionally close in that moment, you are neurologically linked. This is what goes dark when the table only ever seats one. Same brain, same body, only one variable, intimacy. On the left, oxytocin flooding, cortisol dropping, the nervous system exhaling. On the right, the brain is trying to self-regulate, arms wrapped around itself, trying to create the safety that used to come from outside. The cold blue is not artistic. It is a nervous system running at a deficit because the source of its warmth is no longer there. Oxytocin. Released during touch, eye contact, and genuine conversation, it lowers blood pressure, reduces the amygdala's fear response, tells every system in your body, you are safe, you are not alone. Oxytocin is not a luxury chemical, it is a regulatory one, and the brain that carries it navigates life with a steadiness that the brain without it is constantly trying and failing to manufacture on its own. 2 a.m., the brain is exhausted, but it will not sleep. Here is what is happening. The brain has not received enough oxytocin, so it has not signaled safety. So the hypothalamus has not turned off the stress response, so cortisol stays elevated. So the amygdala stays active. So sleep does not come. It is a chain reaction, all the way back to one missing input, a genuine moment of human closeness. The brain is not broken. It is still waiting. The harder the brain tries to push away the stress, the more it rises, because cortisol does not respond to willpower. It responds to safety. And the most powerful safety signal the human brain receives comes from another person. Without that signal, the clouds keep coming. The anxiety is not irrational. The overwhelm is not weakness. It is a brain doing the only thing it knows how to do, when the one resource it was built to need is nowhere to be found. Stage 1. Social hunger. Your brain registers the absence of intimacy, using the same neural circuitry as physical hunger. Researchers found that the brain region that activates when isolated people see images of connection is the same region that activates in hungry people shown images of food. The craving is identical. That low ache, that awareness of someone you miss. That longing sitting just beneath every other thought. That is your limbic system, sending a biological hunger signal. The alarm is working correctly. The problem is that, unlike food, you cannot simply go get what the brain is asking for. Stage 2. Stress escalation. The hunger signal goes unanswered, so the hypothalamus activates the full stress response. Cortisol surges, adrenaline follows, the tension in your shoulders, the shallow breathing, the short fuse, the feeling of being always slightly on edge, without knowing why. That is stage 2. Your body running a survival protocol on a threat it was never designed to handle alone. Stage 3. Altered perception. This is the one that traps people the longest. When stress stays elevated, the brain shifts resources away from the prefrontal cortex and toward the amygdala. Your threat detector takes over. A room full of people laughing. Are they laughing at me? Someone slow to reply. They're pulling away. An invitation that feels like too much. Don't go. It won't be worth it. The brain is not broken. It is protecting you. But it is protecting you from the only thing that would actually heal it. That is the feedback loop. And most people live inside it for years, without ever knowing it has a name. Stage 4. Long-term rewiring. If stages 1 through 3 go unresolved for months, for years, the brain structurally adapts. The amygdala becomes more reactive. The prefrontal cortex becomes less efficient. At calming it down, you look in the mirror. And something feels different. You might call it anxiety, depression, just feeling unlike yourself. What you are actually seeing is what prolonged intimacy deprivation does. At the structural level of the brain, the good news, the brain built those pathways, and the brain can rebuild them. The brain responds to genuine connection faster than almost anything else. A real embrace held for 20 seconds triggers a measurable oxytocin release in the bloodstream. The amygdala quiets, cortisol drops, the prefrontal cortex comes back online, the glow returns. Not all at once, but the nervous system receives the signal. It has been waiting for. You are not alone. You are safe. You can stop bracing now. Touch is not the only pathway back. During meaningful conversation, two people's brain activity begins to mirror each other. Your nervous systems regulate each other, without either of you deciding to. That glowing light moving between them, that is what real conversation does. To two brains in real time, 10 minutes of this does more for your brain than an entire evening surrounded by people you are not truly connecting with. Depth is the variable, not volume. And for the moments when real connection is not yet available, parasocial connection, a podcast, a YouTube voice, a story that understands you, partially activates the same social brain regions as real relationship. Not a replacement, but enough to soften the cortisol, enough to keep the brain from going completely dark. The glow returning here. That is the brain finding a foothold. And sometimes a foothold is exactly what you need to make it to the next real moment. And then there is this moment. The hardest thing a disconnected brain is asked to do. Reach out first, because stage 3 is firing right now. The amygdala is saying, don't, it's not safe. But here is what the research shows. The brain most resistant to reaching out is the brain that most needs to. The hesitation you feel before sending this message is not wisdom. It is the stress response, trying to protect you from the only thing that actually heals it. Send the message. Two brains, same need. On the left, a brain that has been met, held, seen, responded to. It glows not because of personality, but because of experience, because it has received enough safety signals to keep its stress response quiet and its heart open. On the right, a brain that reached, and was not reached back enough times, that it began to turn inward to survive. Arms crossed is not attitude, it is self-protection. Both of these brains want the same thing. One of them has just stopped believing it is still possible. And this is the version of intimacy deprivation that is hardest to see, because they are not alone. They are together, back to back, sharing the same space. And one brain is still warm, still hoping, and the other is already dimming. This is emotional isolation. And it activates the same cortisol response, the same amygdala alarm, the same structural changes. As being completely physically alone, you can be standing right next to someone, and your brain can still be starving, because the brain does not count bodies. It counts moments of genuine connection. And when those moments stop, no matter who is standing beside you, the crack opens again. This is how the brain works without intimacy. Not as a mood, not as a phase, as a biology. With stages, with chemistry, and a clear path back. That path begins the moment you decide that reaching is worth the risk. It always has been. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more content like this.